All right, good afternoon. Thank you everybody for being here today. My name is John Kellner. I'm the District Attorney for the 18th Judicial District, representing Arapahoe, Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln counties. We're here to announce a 45-count indictment from the 18th Judicial District Grand Jury, which outlines how 21 defendants across our community illegally grew marijuana and laundered their drug proceeds through a sophisticated system of social media apps, using QR codes and illegal money brokers in China. The defendants grew and distributed their marijuana throughout the Denver metro area with grow houses and stash houses all across Colorado. They then contacted money brokers on social media apps in order to cleanse their drug money, avoid taxes, and circumvent the Chinese limit on foreign money movement. We believe these individuals are then moving their illegal black market schemes to Oklahoma in order to continue making millions of untaxed dollars on the black market. I want to emphasize that while this is a micro cell that we have uncovered in our state of Colorado of money launderers, we believe that this is going on a macro level across the entire United States. This was a joint effort between specifically the DA's office, my office, the DEA, HSI, and members of the Front Range Task Force. Special assistance was provided by the Colorado Department of Revenue, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, the Colorado National Guard, the Firestone Police Department, Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and Haskell County, Oklahoma Sheriff's Office, the Denver Police Department, the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, and the Mountain View Police Department. Numerous other law enforcement agencies provided assistance to the task force at various times over the course of this investigation that began in August of 2020. This is an investigation that impacted not just Colorado and our community, but many other states surrounding Colorado, many other states in which marijuana was illicitly trafficked out of our state, and then at an international level when it comes to money laundering. To kind of put this into perspective, throughout the course of this investigation, we have seized approximately $1 million in illicit marijuana, illegal black market marijuana proceeds, hundreds and hundreds of pounds of finished product, and over 10,000 plants. Again, this is different than just one house with one grow. This is organized crime. And my newly formed organized crime unit, led by Senior Deputy Darcy Kofel, was integral in this investigation and working with our partners, and we will continue to work to eradicate organized crime within the 18th Judicial District and for the state of Colorado. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our partner with HSI.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Kagan, Special Agent in charge with Homeland Security Investigations here in Denver, Colorado. I'm very proud to stand with the 18th Judicial District, with DEA, Firestone PD, and all of our partners to show that we are stemming the flow of illicit proceeds coming into and out of the state of Colorado. This case, not only, we saw a sophisticated network, as that'll switch, you can see there, confusing to most to look at it, but it just didn't have to do with Colorado. They had reach into the rest of the United States, into China, and down into Central and South America. Chinese money laundering organizations are not new, but they are gaining acceptance with cartels all over the world to launder their proceeds, which fuels drugs coming back into our country, which affects our families and our children. Homeland Security Investigations has a long history of protecting our nation's borders and investigating the flow of illicit currency throughout the United States and throughout the world. This case is no different. Our special agents utilize their unique ability to follow these funds across international borders, state borders, and all throughout the world, which was a significant contribution to the case. This shows the organized crime aspect. The greed of money laundering organizations and cartels around the world has no bounds. And that's why we work together to combat these drug trafficking and money laundering organizations. I want to let you know the Homeland Security investigations, along with our partners, are here to protect the residents of Colorado, and we will stay here to protect the residents of Colorado. I want to thank everyone for some great work in this significant event, and thank you very much. Deanne Ritter, DEA.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody. My name is Deanne Reuter. I'm the Special Agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration here in Colorado. I'm very proud to be here to stand in front of you to help in the announcement of this indictment of this money laundering organization. And when I say that, I say the important part of this investigation is the money laundering aspect of this. It's not just another marijuana case that you're hearing about every day. It's a black market marijuana case, but most importantly, we've uncovered how these Chinese nationals are moving their money out of the state and enriching themselves and the cartels in Mexico through this very complex money laundering scheme. What I'd like to tell you today is that with all the partners that assisted in this investigation, there were thousands of black market marijuana plants seized. There were hundreds of pounds of marijuana. To give you an idea of what the scope of this organization does in the black market marijuana residences that were search warrants were executed on, with these thousands of plants, each plant can produce approximately 1 pound of marijuana per growing cycle, and the cycle is about 90 days. And if you look at the thousands of plants that were seized, even 4,000 plants generate $3 million every 3 months. $3 million every 3 months from just 4,000 plants. That gives you an idea of how much money is being used in these black market, being garnered from these black market marijuana grows and why it's being enriched. And as my partner from HSI indicated, the flow of money out actually funds other illicit organized crime type things, which is why COCA was charged in this case, the state COCA laws. I want to thank all of our partners here, especially Firestone PD, who is standing next to us in this press conference to say that we're here to protect Colorado. All of law enforcement joins together in these. Front Range Task Force is made up of various law enforcement agencies in Colorado. I'm now going to turn it back over to DA Kellner for questions. Thank you. Or any questions from any of us.
Ask me questions? I see. All right, questions?
So was there any cooperation from any foreign governments, or was it strictly U.S. government activity?
I think whenever you have an
Can you
internet,
stand close to the
is that
mic?
going to work?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that whenever you have an international scope in an investigation, there is some element of cooperation. Primarily, though, I will say that this was an investigation conducted by United States, 3-letter agencies, HSI, DEA, the District Attorney's Office, and our various local law enforcement partners as the lead.
So how many people have 21 people been arrested?
So at this time, I think the number is 16 have been arrested. There are 5 remaining arrest warrants outstanding.
Can you tell us a little bit about the 16?
So everybody that's been charged throughout this grand jury indictment faces a variety of different charges. That indictment itself will be available from the court if you wish to access it. Many of them face COCA charges, which are Class 2 felonies. That carries with it a possible penalty if a judge sentences in the prison of 8 to 24 years. Many are also facing DF1, drug felony level 1 charges, which carry a mandatory of 8 to 32 years. So significant charges. Each and every single one of these defendants, I believe, was given a $50,000 bond. Is that correct?
A few are 150,000.
Okay. So between $50,000 and $150,000 bond.
And do they all live in the district?
They're in the Denver metro area primarily, yes.
And those 16 are in custody.
16, yes.
Well, some are out, some may bail.
So I don't know if anybody has posted bail
One
at this point.
posted so far.
Okay.
When were they arrested?
Well, I'm going to ask Ms. Kofel to answer that question.
One was arrested on Saturday and the rest were yesterday.
And are they, all the 16, are they all Chinese nationals?
Yes. Yes.
There you go. Yes. Yes. Yeah, and I think it's important to understand, at least when it comes from state charges like I have, you know, the nationality of somebody is really not important. It doesn't have anything to do with, you know, immigration consequences for us. It has everything to do with what is the impact in our community to local Colorado citizens.
Could you explain the social media aspect of this? It's kind of touched on, but not totally following how that's connected.
Yeah, so a lot of these individuals are using social media apps that have a electronic wallet hub function. And many of us know about things like Venmo and PayPal, things that you can use obviously through social media apps to transfer money. They are using different apps to try and engage in the transfer of money using these social media apps in a way that is, in many respects, not traceable by the United States government.
How did this become on the task force radar?
Well, like many cases, and this is fleshed out a little bit more in the indictment, but it comes from, you know, one person making a report, which leads to the beginning of an investigation, oftentimes through an undercover, you know, officer or a informant bringing forward this information.
Does having legalized marijuana in Colorado make this harder, more difficult? Is there an aspect now that it is legal? I mean, there's limitations, obviously,
Sure.
on what people can grow and that kind of stuff. Was there an impact from that?
Yeah, you know, my belief is that Colorado's experiment with legalizing recreational marijuana has made it easier for groups like this to flourish and use, you know, the imprimatur of legal marijuana operations in the state to, in many respects, hide in plain sight. And I recall very clearly when the discussion and the debate about legalizing marijuana in the state of Colorado was coming to a head, there were many people that said this was going to eradicate the black market, and that is incredibly far from the truth. In many respects, it has simply grown that black market as additional regulation and taxes have come on top of marijuana. And did you have something you wanted to add to that?
I would mirror exactly what you said as far as black market. Sure, sorry. I would mirror exactly what he said as far as black market marijuana grows. They do hide under the cover of state legalization laws, not just in Colorado, but everywhere. And no matter what the legalization is, black market is always going to flourish.
And just to clarify, all this marijuana you're talking about was grown in state and then shipped out of state, and then using that money they laundered it through China?
I think it might be helpful to, oh, it is back up there. Because
You want me to?
this might help. Do you want to walk through this and
So I
explain?
can, yeah. So I think an important aspect of it also is that this case is a money laundering case, very significant money laundering case, and actually started with following the flow of the money, as I said in my remarks, which is we identified the money, major money movements, and that's what we, using our U.S. Customs background, work here. You've got a broker in the U.S. that receives money, moves through what, you know, this is the social media piece, and that money moves back to China. Now I'll put like a very basic spin on it, which is I'm a Chinese national and I want to send my child here to the United States to go to school, or I want to come here and I want to go to Las Vegas and I want to gamble with $200,000. The Chinese government does not allow over $50,000 outside of China any given year by a resident. So what they do here in the U.S. is hold on to this money, and when those situations happen, say I'm the businessman that wants to come in here and go to Las Vegas and gamble, I arrive here, I talk to the money laundering broker, and then I use a social media app to then transfer money within China from account to account. So that money has in essence, moved to China. Now, we're not as clear of what goes on in China, the particulars on it. It's a little bit more difficult for us. But then that circle comes back around and turns into either buying goods, precursor chemicals, goods, hardened goods, which is just clothes, anything you have. Those goods we see go back into Central and South America, Mexico, Central and South America. And as you can see, it just created the entire narcotics cycle within the organizations, the cartels, and through the money laundering organizations. And that is how the money moves around the world, a lot of times without actually moving the dollar.
And what I can add to that is in these black market marijuana grows, if you listen to what I had said about how much revenue 1,000 plant makes per growing cycle, all that is getting paid to these brokers in bulk cash. So the bulk cash doesn't leave the United States like it does in other organizations. The bulk cash from these Chinese growers are talking to that money laundering broker who's could be in the U.S., might not be, but could be in the U.S. that says, I have bulk cash for sale to these other Chinese nationals that want to send their students to school or that want to go gambling in Las Vegas and need the cash because they cannot take it out of China. So that's where that closed loop comes from, the bulk cash from the marijuana. But again, this is a money laundering organization on the onset and a money laundering investigation that was looked at and charged here by the 18th Judicial District.
Why China? I know this is not the first case that involved Chinese nationals. Why specifically China?
For the bulk cash purposes, what you're seeing is marijuana has a high amount of revenue. So Chinese nationals are paid to come here to set up operations like this.
$64,000 question, no pun intended. How do you prevent this from happening? What's the answer?
Law enforcement and prosecutors getting together to work on these type of investigations. Legalizing marijuana has created a big loophole for this. And it's not just marijuana that this is happening. This type of money laundering scheme happens with other drugs. This particular one just happens to be about Chinese nationals. Would you like to add on?
The lawyer ever said no? The answer to your question is enforcement, just like we see here today. It's about prosecutors and law enforcement taking the laws of our state and our country seriously and holding these people accountable. So we have to draw a line in the sand in terms of what is acceptable in our society. That line has been drawn, and we're doing that here today.
Do you have the legal tools available to you to continue here and to eventually step it up the next level where it makes it harder on these kind of operations?
Yeah, I'm always going to advocate for more options for law enforcement, better funding, more cooperation, more collaboration between our different entities and agencies. That's always something we're striving for. One of the things I think is really poignant about this is, as she said, this is a money laundering case with a side of marijuana. This happens with every other type of trafficking organization you can imagine, whether that is drug trafficking or human trafficking, slave labor, sex trafficking, all of the things that we abhor as a society. And understanding now how the money is being moved and laundered to affect those schemes is going to make us more effective at bringing down these organizations.
Do you have a list of the names so we can go through indictments later?
I will send it.
Perfect.
Can you tie in Firestone and describe why your office is prosecuting this?
Sure. So our office has built a reputation for taking these kinds of cases over the last 6-7 years using our grand jury, and it's no secret that we have over 1.2 million Coloradans in our jurisdiction, the most populated in the state. So there's a big nexus of criminal activity that flows through this area, and it's through the efforts of, frankly, Senior Deputy Darcy Kofel in building up our organized crime unit, where our partners at the DEA and HSI and FBI, they bring these cases to us because they know we take them seriously. Firestone's specific role in this was providing a task force officer. Not going to go into the details of what that officer does, though. Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And
Do you have any pictures of stuff that was seized, plants, money?
you love the pictures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are visual media.
Yeah.
That's true, but look at this, guys. That doesn't help? Yeah, there's got to be a stock photo of both marijuana somewhere. No, we don't have those photographs. As was referenced, many of the defendants just recently were arrested. They're going through that initial part of the system. I'm sure you'll have some of those things available at a later time. So thank you very much. Appreciate everybody being here today.